Good morning, everyone.
Good morning on a holiday.
Thank you all for joining us today on this exciting, sleet, snowy morning that we had, braving those the icy roads to be here with us today. My name is Joe Vinson, he, him pronouns. It's my honor to be your service leader today. Before we get started, I'll just remind everyone, please silence your electronic devices. You never want to be that person. And I'd like to welcome everyone, whether you are a member, whether you've been here one time or 100 times or beyond. We're always so glad to have you here, and including if you are watching us online on YouTube. We're very happy that you are joining us. We are a lay-led congregation here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Pensacola. That means that every week we have a different speaker. We do not have a called minister, so we have guest speakers that we bring in. We have members of the congregation who will give the programs. Sometimes we'll bring people from out of town. It's a diverse mix of topics and speakers, and so no matter what what you think of last week's program or this week's program, it's probably going to be something different next week. So stick around, and you'll probably find something that appeals to you. All right, our announcements. So today is I believe the last scheduled listening session for our long-term planning committee. This is your opportunity to help shape UUCP's future. The long-term planning committee is excited to announce a series of listening sessions to gather your input on our church's 5-year plan. These will be held twice a month from December through April, so this isn't the last one, but this is the last one of this month. And that'll happen after the service. A few other things happening after the service today. At 11:30, those interested and or signed up, please gather in the sanctuary for a quick meeting about the circle dinners. I believe today, if Daniel is here, then we are going to decorate the trailer for tomorrow's MLK parade. Again, if that happens today, great. If not, we'll do it tomorrow morning. It comes together pretty quickly. But that is one big announcement, is that tomorrow is the MLK Day parade. This is something that we've been honored to participate in year after year. We always love having people ride along in the float, throwing beads, throwing fruit snack pouches. You can walk along and hand things out as well. It's a great time if you want to bring a drum or an instrument to just kind of jam out in the back of the trailer. It's a really great time. It'll probably be chilly, so bundle up, but we look forward to doing that tomorrow. We'll be gathering, I believe, on Spring Street downtown around 8 o'clock. The parade begins at 10. So you can show up at 9:50, and that'll be just fine. But if you want to show up earlier, that's also great. Something to look forward to tomorrow. And then next week, please make sure you don't forget that next week is our mid-year congregational meeting after the service. So stick around for that. We'll be going over the different teams, any updates on the budget and other various things. It's not a voting meeting, it's just informational, but it's great. It's a great way to just kind of keep abreast of what's happening with the church, and so that's next week after the service. Lastly, do you like to help people who are in need? Do you have about 30 minutes per month to help? We need someone to deliver our food donations to the Manna Food Bank once per month. Patty Underwood has been doing this job for years, but is no longer able. Please see Lauren for details.
We actually got someone, sorry.
Oh, all right. Strike that announcement. We already have someone. Fantastic. All right. I don't think I've missed any announcements, but if I have, now's your chance to raise your hand and we'll figure something out. All right, moving on to our opening words and our chalice lighting. I'm going to call Bradley up here to light our chalice. We light this flame as a reminder of who we are and why we are here. And I'm going to read some words by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Many of the ugly pages of American history have been obscured and forgotten. A society is always eager to cover misdeeds with a cloak of forgetfulness, but no society can fully repress an ugly past when the ravages persist into the present. America owes a debt of justice which it has only begun to pay. If it loses the will to finish or slackens in its determination, history will recall its crimes, and the country that would be great will lack the most indispensable element of greatness, justice. And now our choir and musicians are going to sing some centering music. This is a version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. You may know this song, but this is a little bit of a different take on it, so please just sit back and enjoy our musicians. Thank you, choir and musicians. And we're going to go straight into our opening hymn. I believe this is number 95 in the gray hymnal. And this is There Is More Love Somewhere. Please stand if you're willing and able as we sing hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
And don't get too caught up in the hymnal, because most of you know this. There's only one word that changes each time through. Ready? There's more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. Keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. Peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is justice somewhere. There is justice somewhere. There is justice somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is justice somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere.
And if you'll remain standing, we'll go ahead and recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. You may be seated. Now is the time of our service where we come together and share our joys and sorrows that we have. This portion of the service is not recorded or shared online. It is just for the people in this room at this time. So if you would like to come up, you can line up on either side of the sanctuary. We'll take turns at the microphone, and I'll light a candle for every joy and sorrow that is shared. All right, and we'll go ahead and dismiss our children now. So if everyone would sing along. Go now in peace, go now in joy. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. All right.
Beautiful.
And now is the part of our service that is the offering. As you may or may not know, our church is fully member funded, so we rely on the charitable donations that you wonderful people give to us to operate, to pay the lighting and the water bills and everything, and all the other various expenses that go along with running a church. So we appreciate any time, talent, or treasure you can give, and now is the time when our ushers will come around and collect the treasure. Besides putting in the plate, you can also set up recurring donations online. You can pay by text or mail a check at the address shown above. And as the baskets go around, the choir and musicians will be performing Agitate Me. This is an original by Mike and Rivka.
That's sort of inspired by last week's talk by Lauren.
Inspired by last week's talk by
Oh, yeah,
Lauren.
I like this.
So always wonderful when we have an original Mike and Rivka, so enjoy Agitate Me.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
right, you may be seated. And now for our program. I'm going to keep the introduction as brief as I can, partly because you can maybe tell my voice isn't at 100%, and I want to give our speaker plenty of time. I did want to give a little bit of an anecdote. So Richard Cohen is a relative newcomer to Pensacola. Bradley and I met him and Emily at a dinner party hosted by a mutual friend, and absolutely charming conversationalist, very active listener. I probably talked a lot about myself during this dinner, and hours go by, and right as we're about to all leave and go our own separate ways, I say, so, what do you do? He says, oh, I'm the former president of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so, yeah, I said, well, I really wish I had, maybe spent some time during this dinner to ask questions instead of just talking. So I'm going to let Richard talk as much or as little about that as he would like to, but I'm very excited to hear his talk about the great challenge of our time, building a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy. So please welcome Richard Cohen.
Good morning. I'm here today. I appreciate the invitation from Joe. I appreciate having the opportunity to speak with all of you. And I particularly appreciate the fact that I'm here today with the love of my life. Emily Vickery, there she is. I'm not the most patient person, unfortunately, and Emily understands that, is patient with me, and I love her to death. I was here last week just because I wanted to kind of understand the venue, and I could tell that you had created, or always in the process of creating, what Dr. King would have called the beloved community, a community free of discrimination, free of poverty, infused with justice, and one that deplores violence. It's humbling to talk with you today, not just because of what you represent, but also because, tomorrow is the King holiday. And, how can you muster eloquence, enough eloquence to do that justice? I know that I can't. I've called building a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy the challenge of our time, because I think it's related to what Dr. King would have called creating a beloved community. But the reality is we're clearly facing many, many daunting challenges nowadays. In the international realm, the rules-based order that has served us so well for the last 80 years is on life support. And the president seems determined to pull the plug. Greenland, talking about invading Greenland. This is crazy stuff. And he's willing to blow up NATO for one reason and one reason alone, and that is a pathological need to dominate. He's interested in promoting himself, not in being a team player. Domestically, it's the same story, a pathological need for Trump to dominate. Separation of powers, who cares? Our traditions, the informal guardrails that constrain everyone, those are for suckers. Those aren't important. Because Trump is so obsessed with bringing his opponents and really everyone to heel, we are sliding towards an authoritarian state and a police state as well. What's the one constraint that Trump recognizes to his own power? Anybody know? Yeah. What? His own morality. It would be laughable. I would agree. I would laugh. It's laughable if it were not so scary. You know, what I've called the challenge of our time, building a multiracial and multiethnic democracy, in some ways presupposes a stable, effective electoral system. And that, in fact, is also under attack nowadays. Trump's push for extreme gerrymandering and to end voting by mail is nothing more than a naked attempt to disenfranchise voters and minimize minority voting strength. His push to end voting machines, to outlaw voting machines, is designed to sow chaos and empower the election deniers that he has staffed his administration with. Even if they can't suppress the vote, they'll deny its outcome if it doesn't go their way. It's heads, they win, tails, we lose. You know, King did everything he could, devoted his life to creating a true democracy. And Trump and his allies are the enemies of that democracy. It's something we can't say loudly enough or often enough when we're out in the public. You know, I was born in December 1954. I was only 13 years old when Dr. King was killed in April of 1968. I remember that day, probably because my parents were so upset. They're home watching the television that evening, and the only other time I remember them kind of being that upset was when President Kennedy had been assassinated. I think I understood the basics of Dr. King in those days in a way that a 13-year-old would. I knew he was against segregation, and I knew it was wrong. I can't say that I remember when RFK was killed, but I have very, very vivid memories of the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago later that year. How many of you remember that well? It's everyone with gray hair raises their hand. Did you see that? Sorry. I mean, it was wild. You know, we had anti-war protesters in the street. The police met them with violence. There was violence on the convention floor. Protests over the fact that a number of Southern delegations had excluded people of color from their ranks. And I remember very well, I've seen it 100 times, Mayor Daley hurling epithets and anti-Semitic slurs at Senator Abraham Ribicoff, who was asking for peace and pointing out that there were Gestapo tactics that we're seeing again today. Through all of this, there was one voice that spoke to me, one voice that seemed to cut through the confusion and speak about justice. That voice belonged to Julian Bond, a 28-year-old former aide to Dr. King and a state legislator. He was only 28 years old, yet they honored him by placing his name in nomination for the vice presidency. All of you with gray hair remember that too? Yeah. 3 years after the Democratic Convention in '68, Julian became the first president of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And some 20 years after that, I got to follow in his footsteps. I'm glad to be able to say, and for Emily to be able to say, that Julian was our friend. Our offices in Montgomery overlooked the Dexter Avenue King Memorial Church. That's the church where Dr. King and his allies planned the Montgomery bus boycott and launched what we think of as the modern civil rights movement. The building is incredibly modest. I don't know how many of you have seen it, and it's a stark contrast to the power of the ideas that were hatched there. Looking at the church inspired me and my colleagues every day. I mean, tomorrow, King so deserves a holiday and so deserves to be remembered as a martyr to the cause of justice. But lately, much of the country has been mourning another man considered by millions to be a martyr. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk. Kirk was an immensely talented man, an immensely effective speaker. He was a person of deep faith, and I have no doubt a devoted husband and father. His murder was a traumatic event and a national tragedy. But the reality is that Kirk said many, many racist things. I don't think there's any need to repeat them here. But I think it's important to note that Kirk believed that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, an act that Dr. King championed, was a big mistake. And I think it's important to recognize on the eve of the federal holiday honoring Dr. King that Kirk called Dr. King an awful person and a hypocrite. Kirk saw himself as a victim of discrimination, a casualty of the woke left. He told a story about how he had lost his spot in one of the military academies. I don't remember if it was West Point or which one, but he had lost his spot, he knew, to a person of color who had lesser qualifications than he did. Honestly, I don't know if Kirk's story is true, but I do know that the attitude he expressed is common nowadays in white America. Social scientists tell us that in the last 20 years, white people have come to see black gains as a threat to them. They see race as a zero-sum game that they are losing. They see themselves as the primary victims of discrimination nowadays. Under Trump, that idea that white people are the primary victims of discrimination has become official government policy. Trump's Justice Department has abandoned its traditional mission and is on the warpath against anything that can be considered, has the taint of, be thought of as promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. His administration recently urged white men to file employment discrimination claims. Trump wants us to stop talking about slavery and its legacy, and he wants us to stop talking about the courageous men and women who have sacrificed so much to make our country live up to the true meaning of its creed. Just 10 days ago, Trump emphasized that white people have been treated, quote, very badly in our country. Honestly, I completely agree with the president. White people, particularly white working people and much of the middle class, has been treated pretty badly. Indeed, all working people in our country have been treated pretty badly for a long time. The statistics prove the point. The 3 decades following World War II were a time when a rising tide lifted all boats. As the country's productivity increased, the average wage of an American worker in percentage terms increased by about the same amount. The increase in the country's wealth and prosperity was widely shared. Since the mid-1970s, the opposite has been the case. As the country's wealth and productivity have increased, the average wage of American workers has not kept pace. Instead of being widely shared, the increase in the country's wealth has gone largely to those at the top. This rising tide of inequality is not simply or solely a function of globalization and technological change. It's also been driven by policy choices made in Washington, D.C., choices often dominated by moneyed interests. Let me give an example. The federal minimum age that Congress sets has never kept up with inflation. In fact, a person earning the minimum wage in 1968 had more than twice the buying power of a person who lives on minimum wage today. We've heard a lot about unions lately organizing at Amazon warehouses and at places like Starbucks, but the reality is that unions and the good jobs they've created have been decimated in recent years, cut by more than half. In our country, the reality is that the super rich have accumulated trillions in new wealth, far beyond anything that has happened in any other Western country. If you work hard and play by the rules, that's kind of the American dream. Obama used to talk about it a lot. But for so many people, that dream is a distant memory. Social mobility, the ability to move up the economic ladder, move up the social ladder, and give your kids a better chance than you had, is lower here than any Western country, with the exception of England. And that country still has a royal family, lords and commoners. The vast increase in inequality, the fact that the odds are stacked against the average American worker, breeds frustration. And that frustration often breeds resentment towards those who are supposedly benefiting unfairly from the system. The mythical welfare queens in Reagan's days, the supposed beneficiaries of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs today, and the undocumented population that has grown significantly in recent years. That frustration, that resentment, tears at the social fabric that binds us all together as a nation, particularly along the lines where our country has been historically most vulnerable, the lines of race. And no one has capitalized on white America's backlash to the changes we've been witnessing than our president, Donald Trump. His was the loudest voice promoting the conspiracy that Obama was not an American citizen, and that Obama was some kind of Manchurian candidate bent on leading the country to destruction. President Trump owes his political assent to vilifying the undocumented. They are the people, he says, who are poisoning the blood of our country. The last time we heard language like that was in the 1920s, prior to the time that the country closed its doors to people other than white folk from Northern Europe. And that was a stain in our country for 40 years until President Johnson signed the Immigration Act of 1965 at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. Just last month, Trump said, and I quote, "Why is it that we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have just a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are disasters, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. Trump, of course, has no problem taking people from Africa, as long as they're white from South Africa. Look, fanning the flames of racial division is nothing new in our country. Dr. King talked about it at the end of the Great Selma to Montgomery March in 1965. That was the eve of the passage of the Voting Rights Act, probably the greatest triumph of the modern civil rights movement. Most of us remember Dr. King's speech because of his soaring rhetoric that day. His statement that segregation was on its deathbed, the line that so many people quote today, that the moral arc of the universe may be long, but it bends towards justice. But there's something else that Dr. King said that day that I think is very important to our day. It was his analysis of, his political analysis that he offered. King reminded the nation that Jim Crow segregation was the result of a political strategy engineered in the wake of Reconstruction by white Southern aristocrats who feared that poor whites would unite with newly freed slaves to form a powerful voting bloc. The aristocrats, Dr. King said, took the world and gave the poor white man Jim Crow. When low wages left the white man hungry, he ate Jim Crow. No matter how bad off he was, at least he was a white man, better than a black man. We're better off today because of Dr. King's vision and the courage of those people who marched from Selma to Montgomery. But racial divisions in our country are still being exploited as a lever to gain power. The question for all of us is, what can we do to change that dynamic? It's not going to be easy. I know that. We all know that. But the direction in which we must move, I think, is clear. We need to talk more now about class than race. We need to be the champion of everyone who has been treated badly by our economic system, be they white, black, or brown. Now, we can't abandon calls for racial justice, but when we focus too heavily or exclusively on race and not enough on class, we play into the hands of those who are ready, willing, and able to explore our racial divisions again. The Republicans are posing as the champions now of the working class, while simultaneously passing massive tax cuts for the rich and shredding the social safety net. What a trick! I mean, it's completely crazy, and we can't let them get away with it. There's another thing that we can't let them get away with, and that's monopolizing or owning the patriot label. After all, they're the election deniers. They're the ones who want to suppress the vote. There can't be anything more unpatriotic than that. Yet, sadly, some progressives act as if patriotism is some sort of bourgeois sentiment shared only by people who don't recognize that America is irredeemably racist. That is so wrong. I've heard a lot of progressive people say or talk about moving to Costa Rica or Canada because of Trump. But I've never heard a single Republican say they'd leave the country if Democrats take power. They'd stay and fight. And we must be equally willing to do so. Dr. King had a dream, but he always emphasized that it was a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. That's why the dream was so powerful then and why it's so powerful now. We progressive people need to wrap ourselves in the flag, in the American flag, as tightly or more tightly than the Republicans do. Let me end with something that gives me hope. It's the song Fast Car. You know, it was a song about a poor woman trying to escape poverty. It was written and recorded by Tracy Chapman, a black lesbian, in 1988. In 2023, it was re-recorded by a straight white man that became a country music hit. For me, it's a beautiful example of black and white united by class. We'll play it.
Fast car. I want to get to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to prove.
You got a fast car, and I got a plan to get inside of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money. Won't have to drive too far, just across the border and into the city. And you and I can both get a job. Finally see what it means to be living.
With the bottle, that's the way it is. He says his body's too old for working. His body's too young to look like his. My mama went off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. I said, somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school and that's what I did.
You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live or die this way.
So I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, it felt like I was gone. City lights lay out before us. Your arm felt nice right around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
You got a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. Still ain't got a job. So we'll work in the market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted. And we'll move out of the shelter. Buy a bigger house, live in the suburbs.
So I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast, it felt like I was gone. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice right around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car. I got a job that pays all our bills. Stay out drinking late at the bar. Support your friends and you do your kids. I'd always hope for better. But maybe together you and me find it. I got no plans, I ain't going
You got a fast car.
Is it fast enough so you can fly away?
We gotta make a decision.
Leave tonight or live and die this way.
We're all in this together, and we will rise or fall together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. That was wonderful. For our closing song, the choir and the musicians are going to perform Another World is Possible. This has lyrics that we would like you to sing along. Mike, do you want to explain any?
Sure. So, Amir, our clarinet player, found this song, specifically looking for something for today. It's by a group called Flowbots, and it's from the Justice Hymnal. Did you guys hear that much? Okay, good. Gonna ask you all again to, even if it takes you out of your comfort zone, to say the chant part with us. There's a couple different ones, three. One is in Spanish, the middle one. Luchamos por la libertad. We are fighting for liberty, right? Luchar is like fight, and amos is we are. Yeah. And then, so luchamos por la libertad, even if it's a little uncomfortable, just know that it's not a big deal if it comes out like totally bungled and doesn't mean what we thought. I was thinking about mushrooms and how, like, you know, the mycelium is the invisible part, and that's really what mushrooms are all about. And that's what we're doing here, is like we're bringing out our invisible stuff and vocalizing it. So I really am hoping that as we evolve as a church, that our collective voice will have more like courage and faith in it. So thank you for that. And then we'll say, we are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Say what? We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. That's right. We are unstoppable. Awesome. Another world is possible. And we've got euphonium coming out. Jimmy, how about this band? What? We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. Say what? We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. That's right. It doesn't have to be like this. Oh no. It doesn't have to be like this. We are unstoppable. Doesn't have to be like this. Doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to do any part you want. Right here, another world is possible. Right here, another world is possible. When today, another world is possible. It doesn't have to be like this. Luchamos por la libertad. 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 We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We They didn't know that we were seeds. 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 We're here, though they tried to bury us. We're here, though they tried to bury us. We're here, though they tried to bury us. We are here, though they tried to bury us. We're here, though they tried to bury us. But they didn't know that we were seeds. They didn't know that we were seeds. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to send you out with some closing words. If you guys want to keep going, the rhythm was great. These are closing words by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Time is neutral. It can be used either constructively or destructively. And I'm convinced that in many points, the people of ill will in the United States have used time much more effectively than the people of goodwill. Human progress comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. Without this hard work, time itself becomes the ally of the primitive forces of irrational emotionalism and social stagnation. And so we must help time and realize that the time is always ripe to do right. Thank you so much for being here. Go in peace.
Yes.
Thank you.